and 20.3 million Epic. What can you do with Epic? Epic is a network to make permissionless payments, so you can pay anyone, anywhere, any amount, anytime, any reason, privately, and nobody can stop you. There is no other network in the world today that can tick all of these boxes at any price except for Epic. So Epic has a lot of unique features, one of which, as the name implies, is privacy. So in Epic, all transactions are confidential, which means that the amounts and addresses are blinded. You can validate on a block explorer that a transaction has occurred, and you can validate that it is correct, but you cannot see anything about the transaction, neither the address nor the amount, unless you are one of the two parties to a transaction. And so because it's private, that gives it fungibility. If I send BTC coins to my Coinstore account and they came from a darknet situation or a mixer or through someone on the OFAC sanctions list, then I'm going to get my account shut down and my funds frozen, because when you're dealing with BTC or Litecoin or any of these transparent blockchains, you need to care which coins you're getting because you can trace them all individually. Whereas Epic, all coins are identical. Because of that confidentiality, essentially the ownership history is reset every time they're spent, and all coins are identical and interchangeable. The way that occurs is through a series of foundational technologies, including CoinJoin, which merges all transactions in a block together in one grand multi-signature. There's also a procedure known as cut-through that aggregates or eliminates unnecessary historical data and only stores the net change in balance. So if I send a coin to Manfred and Manfred sends it to Bernice, and then we send it all around back and forth to each other 100 times, other networks like BTC need to store 100 transactions and replay them every time the coins change hands. Whereas here, we just need to say, okay, the net change in balance is +1 from Manfred, -1 to Max, and all the intermediate transactions essentially get discarded. So cut-through not only provides privacy, but it also makes the chain a lot more space efficient, which we will get into later. We also use Schnorr signatures, and another thing that's not on here, perhaps it should be, called Peterson commitments. It's also possible to send transactions using I2P and Tor to drive around censorship and blockades. Epic is truly unstoppable money. Another unique feature is that Epic transactions can be completed offline by a USB stick, which means even if you don't have internet access, you can still make your transaction. So we use Mimblewimble, which has a privacy benefit, but really the reason we chose it was primarily scalability. To put this in perspective, Bitcoin Core has a theoretical maximum of 7.6 transactions per second, but really in practice it only achieve about 4.5, which is about 350,000 transactions a day in a 1 megabyte configuration every 10 minutes. Now, right now, Epic today is 1 megabyte, but it's every 1 minute instead of 10. So it's the same amount of data going through 10 times faster. And so instead of 4.5 transactions per second for BTC, we have about 17. So we are almost 4 times as fast. But what happens is very interesting. As you increase the block size from 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte to 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128, and you shrink the block time from 60 seconds to 50, to 40, 30, 25, 20, 15, and 10, you get quite an explosive increase in throughput. So within 5 years, when we were doing 128 megabyte blocks every 10 seconds, that results in over 12,800 transactions a second, or 1.1 billion a day. So in 5 years, Bitcoin Core will still be doing on its present trajectory only 350,000 transactions a day, and all the other transactions beyond that need to occur on layer 2s, such as Liquid and Lightning, or on centralized exchange ledgers, whereas Epic can scale on layer 1 and can expand to accommodate all of the world's financial needs to make payments. So another aspect of scalability is the size on disk that it takes to represent the history of the chain. So this again is a bit old. Right now BTC, because of ordinals, is growing at a faster rate. It's about 450 gigabytes. Our chain has grown from 2 to 4 gigabytes since that time. When we are doing the same level of volume as BTC, instead of a 400 or 500 gigabyte chain file that only grows, we probably will be only 25 or maybe 50 gigabytes. We get tremendous scalability from that cut-through technique. And if you look at Ethereum, it's already up over 12 terabytes. The reason that's important is because if you have a node that is too big for your hardware, then the node operators tend to centralize, and it changes the power relationship between users and those who are actually operating the network. So in the case of Epic, it is an original Satoshi design where the users also mine and validate their own transactions through running nodes. Another important thing in today's environment, particularly with what has happened post-FTX, and the increasing regulatory crackdowns, particularly in the United States, is that we really got a perfect score on regulatory compatibility, because that was a key design decision and something we put a lot of thought into going forward. Uniquely, there's 22,000 assets on CoinMarketCap, and if you ask how many of those began life without an ICO, without a pre-mine, are not structured as a corporation, didn't take any VC investment, and don't even have any team tokens, you're getting down to, I think Bitcoin Core meets that test, and maybe a few other ones, but almost nothing. Essentially everything that exists has some potential exposure and liability. The SEC and other regulators can argue, okay, this is really a company, this is really a security, you should have registered it, pay us $30 million in the case of Kraken, or $22 million in the case of Nexo. The government is really trying to pull out all the stops here in the US to kill crypto and protect the banks, and we've designed a safe foundation for our further aspirations, because we design it in such a way where we fall under the commodity legislation rather than security legislation. So we're not concerned about the Howey test, the Competes Act, the infrastructure bill, the broker definition, the Stable Act, any of these things that pretty much every other project is having sleepless nights over right now, wondering how they're going to survive. We don't have any of those problems, because we put so much effort into staying within the swim lanes of regulatory compatibility instead of pushing the envelope. A bit about how we work. As I mentioned, I'm one of about 300 volunteers in 70 countries for an organization known as Epicenter DAO. So EPIC is a proof of work protocol with no governance. The miners control the network, and it's mainly determined by the user base what direction it evolves in. And part of how we formalize that is that we've got this meta DAO, or DAO of DAOs, a very flexible, expandable structure that can scale, where currently we've got 36 different baby DAOs that are part of the mothership. These are all teams that are working on different initiatives to help make the ecosystem grow. And we also have what are known as guilds of people that are working on different parts of the system. Now, none of us are getting paid. We're volunteers. We invest our time, not just because we like it and we like the community that we're a part of and the future that we're building, but also when we add value to the network through our labor, we make the value go up and gain in economic results through our efforts. So it's a very open structure that anyone can be a part of. As I mentioned, right now there's about 300 of us in about 70 countries. And if you like what you see here today, reach out to us and get involved, and there's tons of opportunity going on all over the world. Another unique thing about Epic is that it's future-proofed. Bitcoin Core, as a proof-of-work network, uses a single mining algorithm called SHA-256, and it requires specialized ASIC equipment to run it. Epic runs 3 proof-of-work algorithms in parallel. 48% of the time, the blocks go to CPUs on an algorithm called RandomX, also in use by a coin called Monero that many people may be familiar with. It uses that as its single algorithm. Another 48% of the time, GPUs get the block reward, and the rest are on standby. That's an algorithm called ProgPow, used in another coin called Firo. It's great. It doesn't get nearly enough recognition. And then 4% of the time, there's a specialized ASIC algorithm called Cuckoo that doesn't generate nearly as much heat as the SHA-256 ones. And what's unique about our future-proofed architecture is that we can add as many algorithms as we want and slot them in on the fly. We can also change the percentages of the algorithms. So the next one that is coming in is a quantum-resistant algorithm called dilithium crystals. And once we put that in, then we can truly consider Epic quantum ready. And so we're not afraid of anything the future holds. Additional research directions are algorithms that target tensor processing units for artificial intelligence or machine learning applications, random ARM for mobile and tablet, and RISC-V again for mobile and tablet markets. Because Epic is mined on commodity hardware that people already own, that means that, number one, anyone can mine, but also we're not producing any electronic waste. There's tens of thousands of ant miners from Bitmain and other companies that need to be thrown away every 2-3 years because they're obsolete and can't be used for any other purpose. And they're also consuming a lot of energy, which is a feature rather than a bug, but it produces a lot of stress on the energy grids, and that leads to a backlash from local utility companies. For example, New York State and Canada have not been renewing their contracts with mining operations. And in a case like China, where they banned proof of work and 54% of the hash rate blinks out overnight, that's not good for stability. Epic is distributed in about 10 to 20,000 different mining environments in the home and in the home office and in small data centers that are doing other things rather than specially constructed industrial mega farms. So it's greener, and it's also more secure because in order to 51% attack the network, an attacker needs all 3 algorithms, not just one. So we ran through it pretty quickly. There's a lot more to talk about in the Epicenter ecosystem beyond just Epic itself, but this is what I have here today. So Bernice, you said that we would be able to take questions from the audience if people are interested. If not, I'm going to happily go back to sleep because it's late here, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Teman-teman, ada pertanyaan mungkin buat Max dan Epic Cash.
Max, I do have a question.